And we are live. This is Travis from Carter Capital, Trade with Travis, and Expert Advisor Reviews on YouTube. Hope everybody's doing very well. Hey, there we go. Sorry about that. On YouTube, hope everybody's doing very well on this Monday morning. As we go through and be able to take a look at trading opportunities and everything else, typically we end up doing this right around 6:30. This is another 6 o'clock session, as I ended up stating last week. We are going through testing over at my school, so uh, we have to be there a little bit earlier just to be able to make sure everybody's set up and ready to go. But hope everybody's doing well. What I'm getting ready to do is gonna go ahead and place in the disclaimer, and then after that we'll go ahead and get started. We're gonna take a look at trades from every market that we end up taking a look at, and obviously we end up taking a look at some of the pairs that you may end up having that you would like to be able to talk about. So do me a favor, please let me know if my sound is good. Make sure that you end up saying hey inside of the chat. It's always good to be able to talk to each and every one of y'all, and we'll go ahead and get started from there. So I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from the education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that trading involves risk. It involves risk of being able to make money. Also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you can end up making money today. What's going on, Brian? I hope everything's going well with you, big dog. Um, as we get everything else situated, what we're going to end up doing, obviously looking for manual trades. We're going to end up looking, or we're going to end up talking about the automated trading and everything else like that. I'm actually going through a phase on my Forex funds. I have a few, there's a few other people that are going through some stuff on FTMO and stuff like that. We got about 18 days left, and we got a little bit of a hole that we got to climb ourselves out of. I would love to be able to get funded 100% manually, but if I don't want to waste a chance on not necessarily on being able to have a funded account, being able to pass through that phase as well. So if I have to manually intervene, then we may have to do that. Who knows? But we'll see. The morning started off right. We ended up having a win trade. We ended up having a win trade earlier this morning on Euro United States dollar. But here we go. So let's talk about what's happening this week. We end up having really nothing this week. President Lagarde, nothing at the beginning of the week. President Lagarde is going to end up speaking at 12:45. That's going to end up being on. It doesn't say. It's just a regular type of meeting. So we're going to leave that as it is. Going into Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be a lot of stuff that's going on from Germany and from the pounds. Obviously, this is going to end up being the first. This will be the first fundamentals day of the week. Um, we end up taking a look at mainly most of the stuff is going to end up being between the Eurozone, going to end up between Great Britain and obviously New Zealand. New Zealand's going to end up having their CPI data. The Australian dollar is going to end up having their trim mean CPI. So we'll see how everything's going with that. What's going on, Block? Hope everything's going well with you. Um, I did end up saying that Bitcoin's going to pop up to 22 at some point, and it finally did. I don't know where it is now, but uh, obviously I know you know. Um, let's see. This week, I don't know why it's not doing that for me. Okay, AM, PM. All right, cool. It's Wednesday. Okay, I guess they don't have anything for Thursday and Friday yet. Let's see. We'll go from there. There we go. There we go. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for letting me know. Cool. So I'm only showing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I probably might need to look at somewhere else, but we'll have plenty enough time to be able to talk about that. Today, I believe it's going to end up being, a slow morning. Uh, Now, obviously, it's 6 o'clock, so I can say it's going to be a slow morning, but it's 6 o'clock in the morning as we take a look at it. But overall, when we take a look at everything else, we're going to go into the big three, be able to see what's happening with those, and kind of get a better idea about what's happening overall. There goes that big explosive move that we end up talking about. 22,750 has already done been hit. I'm going to start off with. I'm going to go ahead and start off with Bitcoin because it's there and get it out the way. This has been pretty much our overview. We end up saying that at first Bitcoin ended up having that large drop and ended up having a large range from 25,000 all the way to 18. fell inside of this yellow consolidation, broke down, went all the way down to 15,800. You end up having three opportunities to be able to catch it at 15,800. At the least, you wanted to be able to catch it right before 18,240. Once it broke out at 18,240, we end up placing in an order. Our order was to the halfway point, or basically to the top of this overall move. I'm sorry, we had three orders. There was an order at 17,000, broke out to the top. There was another order that we ended up saying expect that the market would end up getting up to 20,370. I expected that the market was going to fall down. It did not. That means that there's a lot of momentum that's happening with this overall movement. It fell one time at 20,379, basically turning past resistance into a future support. And then after that, ended up exploding up to the upside, which is basically the top of this halfway point. Now, that was the last point that we ended up talking about for us being able to make a movement on. Now, with that also being said, the next point where this market is going to end up potentially going now will end up being the top of the resistance. Now, the top of the resistance will end up being at 24,980. And I don't know if we're going to end up seeing like a large, if it's just going to end up being a large push, and that's what it's going to end up doing. But remember the last time that this market ended up running back in 2020 when we end up seeing this market go from that 8 to 10 grand and then finally end up making its move. This was the last area where it really truly had like a little bit of a setback before kind of going back up. So the last pivot on there was 24,360. We take a look at to the right, 24,360 ended up getting hit a couple times. I would probably say 24,360 will probably be the next stopping point before ultimately getting back up to 29,000. So let's say 24,360 or 24,350 as the next point, where if you are looking at being able to get into a move and you end up getting a solid retracement or a solid movement, from there 24,350 will probably be the next number. From there, once it breaks from that number, then I think it's going to skyrocket up to 29 overall. I think ultimately what's going to end up happening over the course of the next couple of days, once again, because I do think as we look at what's happening from an economic news standpoint, it's starting to get a little bit slow. The last time we end up seeing this, we end up seeing basically a pseudo box that we could be able to work off of. There was solid enough consolidation to be able to work off of that. We've been seeing that pretty much the whole way. Consolidation, explosion, consolidation, explosion. But we end up having a large, we definitely end up having a large gap that we can be able to work off of. In this case, I'm seeing somewhat of the same thing. My hope is that it's just not going to end up making more of a triangle. Because ultimately, well, it's not in triangle status yet, but it hasn't built out a consolidation point yet either. So I'm gonna keep that as it is. We have. I'm not necessarily going to say that we have a defined support yet, but I'm going to go right there and say the bottom of the wick of the candlestick is probably the area where we'll call this natural support. That will end up being somewhere around 22,450. Resistance as it stands right now. Resistance, once again, as it stands right now, is basically 20. I'm going to go with both of these candlesticks. I'm going to pinch that down a little bit and just go with the highs of what its market actually was. 24,290 or 23,290. We'll see how that kind of plays out. See if it's going to end up staying in that consolidation as a whole first, and if that does, then after that you got somewhere to be able to work off of. I'm going to look at volume profile to see how that kind of matches up, but that's where we're at right now at this point. Nothing to be able to do, but we'll see. It's been a full pennant formation back and back on the macros. Yeah, I mean, I was seeing a triangle, but the triangle doesn't look the greatest in the world. That's why I just said I'm just going to go with a consult. I'm just going to end up going with a box. Typically, when you look at most charts, especially when they're rolling, you can truly see a true flag be shown. This one's not showing a true flag as of yet, at least from this data that I'm looking at. Let's go ahead and go United States dollar index. United States dollar index was still in that trade when we ended up talking about what the market was going to end up breaking down from 12,814. End up getting out of this a couple times. Actually looking at being able to get back in, but ultimately end up taking a trade. It broke down to the downside right when I think CPI data ended up coming out for the news. We end up getting out of it right before the news actually ended up having this spot actually be shown up. It was somewhere around there. But currently right now, you can see that the market's in consolidation. There's really nothing to be able to do on this one as a whole. I don't think you're going to see anything going into today, unless there's just some news that we're just not paying attention to. We end up talking about overall from a daily perspective and a weekly perspective that the market was in the buy zone. So maybe this might be one of those accumulation areas where people should be starting to look at buys. Just overall, we can see that the weekly is definitely in the buy zone. It's touching the inner trend line, or it's actually below the inner trend line at this particular point. The question is it going to end up bouncing, or we're going to end up seeing it gravitate toward the outer trend line over here? But if we end up going to the daily, Fatty, what's going on? Um, if we end up going to the daily, we can see that obviously the market's still somewhat in consolidation. And in my mind, I think that we're still in a low volume node area. 12,626 is the area where it has to be touched in my mind. I still think that it's going to ultimately end up falling, but the daily and the weekly are in the buy zone. So it makes it harder for me to be able to say that I will look at being able to take sales. So I'm out on the United States dollar index, and it's actually affecting a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing for with prop firm traders and everything else, because with this being so slow, it's making January, depending on the type of trader that you are, it made January very tough to be able to kind of be able to pass. Um, and I think that's the reason why, even with my system struggled a little bit for us being able to do this. So maybe that might be one of the reasons. We'll see. Obviously, we want to get as much data as we can. I think ultimately, like I end up telling everybody, I want to be able to get everybody to pass before March. Um, so we got the beginning of February to be able to get everything else set and complete, because I think that we can be able to get everything done before March. Um, Answer this question, because all y'all been around me for a while. So I'm talking to Fatty, I'm talking to Brad, I'm talking Brian, I'm talking to Block. Um, would y'all want to do a manual? Would y'all want to do a manual um, prop firm live trading session here as well? Like this manual trading, do one for us automation, but do one for us manual trading as well. To be honest, I think it would be cool. Um, Obviously, we talk about all of y'all know my system when it comes down to trading. I know each and every one of y'all systems when it comes down to trading as well. Brian, I know how patient you are when it comes down to how you look at being able to trade. I think ultimately, if we end up doing that, it'll bring a little bit more. It'll make it to where everyone can be able to kind of pull their weight together and be able to do it as well. Yeah, I know. I seen you do GU, but I haven't been. Like I told you before, Brian, I haven't been manually trading. Yes, blocked. Yes, on Brian. Like I said, on the manual from a prop firm perspective, I have not been manually trading. I've been trying to do everything with the systems. Well, this is the first time doing it with that system. So I want to be able to do both, because ultimately I want to be able to get as much. Uh, I want to be able to get as much funded money as I possibly can before March. Cool. So we'll all set that up. And we'll talk about that later. Um, but nice, 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 nice. So as we take a look at it, currently right now we're in the middle of consolidation overall on the United States dollar index. There's really nothing to be able to do. Um, we'll kind of get back into that a little bit later on. But the United States dollar index as a whole, we're not doing nothing. Oil, I'm going to be quick with. It's still in consolidation. It's starting to pop up a little bit more. It finally end up getting up to the 82.50 area once again, but it has not broken as of yet. Remember, until it breaks 82.50 or breaks below $70 a barrel, I'm not doing anything when it comes down to this trading. But I am going to keep my eye on it. Once it ends up breaking out of that level, then 94.50 is the next level where it's going to end up going. Ultimately, where it's going to end up going. I think I'll have three different stops on where it's going to end up going, just like what ended up happening with Bitcoin. The first one ended up being 86.30. That would be the quick scalping maneuver if you're looking at being able to get out. The second one would end up being, obviously, it ended up being 89. I'm going to say 89.80. Will end up being the next position instead as well. So these are secondary positions of where the market could potentially end up going for uh, manual take profit areas. If you're looking at being able to do that on oil. Um, at this point, you actually could go ahead and place in your pending order. Um, and once you end up placing in your pending order, you can kind of end up letting this thing kind of ride out until it's ready to be able to pop. Stop loss. As I ended up saying before, I wanted to be able to see the swing low. The last swing low that we ended up having was right there at 78, 78.15. Um, I will look at 78.15 as being the actual stop loss, uh, as a way of being able to ensure that we know where that position is going to end up being for its, as far as buys. For sales, I'm not going to look at that yet because it's just not there yet. And we go from there. But essentially, this would be a three order trade. 82.50 we end up being. Give me a second.
Can I get my house? Can I build my house?
Yes, son. Give me a second. You want to say hey to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, come on. Oops. Let's say good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. There you go. All right. So 82.50 will end up being a buy trade. Stop loss will end up being 78.15. Take profit one will end up being 86.13. We'll make it a 1-to-1. Take profit two will be 89.80. Take profit three will be 94.60. Which will end up being the three areas where the market could potentially end up going overall. 94.50. I'm sorry. As those trades. Do that off the table. Off the table. Off the table. Do it right here. Okay. Did we do gold yet? I don't think we did gold yet. Oh, nope, nope, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, so gold. Gold has been rolling at this particular point. We'll go to the weekly, then after that, the daily. We'll see where it's at. The weekly's in the sell zone, the daily's in the sell zone. Obviously, both of them kind of matching up with what I ended up saying about the United States dollar index. Both of them end up hitting the daily D extension. I think gold was at 1872 I mean 1972. No, I'm sorry, 1872 was correct. The last time we ended up taking a look at this from a weekly perspective, it ended up completing one D extension that has not had a second fib to be able to work off of as of yet. Um, and we're still in the middle of this large consolidation that ended up happening. From a daily perspective, it's actually going through the second wave or third wave of its movement. End up having about 3 days of retracement before end up ultimately starting to push back up. I think this is nothing more than consolidation that's going to end up being built out between this area right here. Um, like I end up saying a little bit before it, as soon as they end up hitting the extension, currently right now it's in an R5 type of position. It has not broken the counter trend line break yet, so I'm not interested in being able to jump in as of yet on this one. I got to see this market fall. And the reason why I got to see the market fall is because I got to see the market be healthy enough to be able to have a solid retracement before being able to make another move towards a counter trend line break. Until then, there's really nothing to be able to do on this one as of yet. And plus, going back to what I ended up saying, I got to see what's happening with the United States dollar. United States dollar has been too slow at the beginning of the month for me to be ecstatic about any of the movement that I'm seeing from it. This overall. So currently, right now, nothing to be able to do off of this pair. I'm gonna wait and kind of see how everything kind of goes with gold. Okay, so there it is. Not gonna do anything off of that. Let's go US 30. Take a look at that on TradingView. We'll see how that kind of plays out with volume profile and everything else. So I need to clear this up a little bit more. So we had that triangle of movement up here. I'm going to draw a box around that area, even though it wasn't a box. We had a triangle worth of movement in that area. Then after that, we end up having our vortex area, our free run area. Obviously, we talk about that all the time. Then after that, we had a little bit more of consolidation. Then after that, remember, anytime that you end up having a large movement going to the upside, that movement is going to end up being ultimately fulfilled going back. So you consider this to be, obviously, we look at that as the low volume that end up happening. You're going to see that same movement end up happening back to the downside. A free run area is pretty much always going to end up being a free run area. Just this always happens. Now, from this perspective, we can see that the market is or was in consolidation. End up having that natural support and resistance. From there, market end up going back inside of consolidation. We had this little gap. Here's my problem with that. We go back, we take a look at it. We're back inside of that 33% area where the market was in consolidation from legitimately the middle of December all the way until basically the 9th of January. So this trade right here was a little bit more of a difficult one to be able to say that I'll be interested in being able to take, even though it still fulfilled the overall rules of vortex trading, where breaks out of consolidation, goes up to the next highest high volume node, which was right around here at 33,450, or basically the top of resistance before ultimately being able to push from there. I think that we're going to see a little bit more consolidation as a whole. And if you look at it, once again, we just go back to price action. We're back inside of that consolidation. So it makes it kind of tough to be able to consider US 30 as a viable trading option as a whole right now. Hey, keep it down. A viable trading position as a whole right now, which is not one of the things that you want to be able to hear if you're in the middle of a prop firm challenge, because you want to be able to get, you got to be able to find pairs that have momentum. And the typical pairs that I typically end up trading with, Euro, United States dollar, US 30, NAS 100, all of these pairs now are in consolidation. So if you didn't pass it at the beginning of the month, then it's going to end up being kind of hard to be able to do it based off of the rules that we end up typically using. So now we got to get to a point where we got to find other pairs that we may have to be interested in. So I'm going to take a look at NAS 100 real quick. See if that's basically the same at this particular point. NAS 100 end up breaking through consolidation. Oh, that's 15 minute. Let's see. Weekly. Weekly, we are at a massive consolidation spot with a resistance is at 12,075. The support is at 10,660. Market is basically moving in the middle of that consolidation overall. If we take a look at that from a daily perspective, we can see that we're in the middle of the largest peak of consolidation in this area, which once again makes it harder to be able to make a decision on if you want to be able to trade. We end up having a large consolidation block that ended up happening from October 17th to November 7th in this area, which is basically that little middle peak area where we are. If you go to the hourly position and be able to see where we're at ultimately to kind of be able to see if there's any type of movement that we can be able to take. Uh, Pretty much with the top of this resistance of this consolidation area right here where the market's still kind of building out a consolidation spot. So the simple and plain answer is if we're being conservative, there's no position to be able to take, at least not until the market ends up breaking below that area. Now, if it breaks below that area, let me get rid of this. We're done with that. That trade was over with. You can get rid of that trade as well. I don't know why this popped up. What is that? It was a very nice double bottom on the weekly. Um, I mean, heck, if we're being very honest, we can erase that. We can get rid of whatever that is, and we can be able to call this the natural support right there because it's done tapped and really done fell out of favor right there in that area. This would be the top of resistance. Um, Ultimately, 11,272 will probably end up being right where the free area starts, but right where right where it ends. So orders probably should be at 11,250. 11,250 will probably end up being a sell trade. Sell trade, all you're doing is just trying to get right back to the top of this resistance right here if the market ultimately falls, which will end up being 11,107. So that's 150 points right there if the market does fall. It ended up looking something like this. Here to there. Not the greatest risk reward, but that would be the sell trade that I would look at for as an option. Stop, baby. Stop, 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 stop. Take it off the table. If the market ultimately continues to fall, remember when the market breaks a support, it will end up falling through and going to another support. If that happens, then what you can be able to see is ultimately the market may end up falling all the way down back to 10,680, but I don't believe that's going to happen either. I think that this market has to have another week or so, or possibly even two, to truly be able to get itself back into a position to where it can start being more trending at this point. I think we've had our trending movement to be able to build out what a resistance was. I don't think that we have our true out movement to be able to know exactly where the market's going to end up going. So ultimately, NAS 100, nothing to be able to do. Does Owanda allow you to do Bitcoin? No. No. Not in the manner that you would want to be able to do it, Minecraft. If you're going to do that, I'll give you a company that you can be able to do that with. Give me one quick second. It makes it a heck of a lot easier to be able to do it with this group. I'm talking about Osprey FX. Osprey FX allows you to be able to do that. Allows you to be able to place in funds through Bitcoin. Through Cash App. Actually by buying Bitcoin, and then after that, you want to trade it just like if it was just a regular. Just if it was like a regular system where you can buy and sell and be able to do it based off of margin, you can be able to do it off of Osprey FX, and really and truthfully, as soon as you end up making your income, you can be able to get it back in an hour to 3 hours. Give me one quick second. I'll send you personally a link. How about this? Send me a personal message and I'll send it over to you. Yeah, send me a personal message and I'll send it over to you. Cool. All right. Is there any pairs that anybody else would like to be able to talk about real quick? Anybody else? There's any pairs that anybody else would like to be able to talk about real quick? Got a little bit of time. Okay, cool. So, everybody, let's have a good week this morning. Oh, let's have a good morning when it comes down to trading. Obviously, natural gas futures. Natural gas futures. Mason, get that off the table, baby. Everybody can hear you. Get it off the table. Are you using Black Bull for this micro pattern? Or are you looking at some other chart?
No, come on, not this.
Micro pattern. I'm gonna ask real quick one more time. Are you using what's your brokerage, or what's your symbol that you end up using it with? Makes it a little bit easier for me. Let's see. So I'm completely new. I haven't made my head around indicators yet. Forget the indicators. Just let me know the symbol.
Oh, what do I do?
Let's see. I'm do it off of currency.com because I know currency.com has a. Okay. You see how that joker fell all the way back to the high volume node? Nice. Okay. Head and shoulders pattern end up getting broken. Okay, weekly's on the buy zone. Has not been a counter trend line break as of yet. We can clearly see that the market has been falling. The question is it going to end up being a valuable counter trend line break for this market to actually be able to go up? And because we're still in winter months, you should technically see that natural gas prices should go up. From a daily perspective, here's your. Sorry. Go down here, baby. Go down here. From a daily perspective, still no counter trend line break as of yet, but both of them are in the buy zone, so that means that there's going to end up being some type of transition trade that's going to end up happening in the near future. Okay, so please keep that in mind as we go through. I'm not going to call. You could say that the inner trend line has been broken. We could say that the market has started to settle up a little bit. I would look more going into a 2 hour, going into a 1 hour to see if there's going to end up being some type of built up consolidation that has happened as of yet. And then after that, kind of seeing based off of volume where the market is going to potentially end up going. So simply put, this is what I see. Here's your high volume node that you end up working off of. The high 3.2 forwards that overall movement. We can see that consolidation basically end up being right around that area anyway. The low of that or the support of that will end up being right at 3.085 with a true low. We're talking about this two different bodies that end up getting touched. If you want to be safe around there, we end up being at 3.085. Now, The question is this thing going to fall down any lower? We don't know that yet, but ultimately, what I will end up saying is that if I'm going to end up banking on what's going to end up happening based off of what I know about the United States dollar index, what I know about what's happening for us typically with weather, or typically what's happening in winter months and everything else, we should see that this market, when it does pop, it'll probably end up popping to at least right there. So this window is the area where I would want to be able to take advantage of if I'm looking at natural gas prices on being able to buy. So this, if you haven't been around me, essentially what I end up doing, and matter of fact, I'm going to bring this up and be a little bit more safe and say that's the natural position where I want to be able to get out. I would look at the top of the resistance of where the consolidation actually was. In this case, I'm going to say the safest place is 3.22, let's say 3.230. Probably end up being a pretty good spot to be able to take a look at being able to get in. Now, obviously, more information has to be given out. This market doesn't open up until 9:30 anyway, but that will be one of the positions where I would take a look at for us being able to get out. I'm going to leave this up for a second. Hopefully, that end up helping you out. That is my time. I got to get over to the school and be able to go from there. With Big Stamp, all you got to do is take a look at what's happening with Bitcoin. Typically, what you end up seeing is that once the big boy starts moving, everybody else starts moving with them. Just keep that in mind as we go through. You like what I end up doing? Please make sure that you end up clicking on that boost button. Obviously, for the people that have been here over and over and over again, thank you for being able to pop in. For the new watchers and everything else, stop. I do appreciate each and every one of y'all being able to pop in. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade your plan with each and every one of y'all in the next video. Take it easy.